Today our guest is Reka Mан-Вархеѓи, author of the novel Magnetic Rид. This book recently was published by Artkонект publishing house as part of the project European Stories of Hope. Book is translated by Zlatko Panzov, and the project is supported by the program Creative Europe of European Union and the Ministry of Culture of Republic of North Macedonia. Hi, Reka. Thank you for being with us today.
Hi, it's a pleasure for me.
Okay. Magnetic Rид is a novel that shows a vivid representation of the life of academics in Hungary at the turn of the century. In one interview, you have said, "I thought for a long time about writing a so-called university novel. Perhaps we can place Magnetic Rид in this subgenre drawer, which more or less does not exist in contemporary Hungarian literature, although many writers have studied at universities and a good part of them teach there. We are talking about an environment that shapes our intellectual horizons, and yet we have little critical and or literary reflection of the subject. That is, how that environment is shaped by the same power relations, sexism is just one of them, as our lives in general. This position is very important for your novel. Can you tell me something more about this?"
Yes, when I started studying at the university, and I came from a low-class family, I had a lot of different moments, because I felt that somehow I'm not able to understand things in the same way as some of my colleagues. I thought that I'm quite clever. Okay, maybe many 20-year-olds think the same, but somehow I still had problems, and I wasn't able to really understand why is it. And then I read Pierre Bourdieu, and then I understood what is happening with me. That from my position, from my socialization, I have these difficulties. Because, I don't own the same language. I don't own the same thinking structures. And also I had the same, so it was a very big aha moment for me. And then I read a lot about the topic. And I had the same aha moment with also being a woman in the academic sphere, that many of my frustrations I had, and also many of my feelings, I had to realize it's not just mine. It happens with a lot of women at the university. So. In general, that was these things were very important for me. So I read a lot about it, but in the same time, of course, I wanted to write literature, and in these years, I mean, when all this started, it was 2000, the same time when the novel, what is in the novel. So that's when I was at the university, and I read a lot of literature, and literature at that time, most of the books was about, I mean, in Hungary, most of the books were about village life and life of the poor, and so I felt that the literature topics were quite different what I felt interesting, and I just thought that I want to read about what is happening with me, and somehow. So of course, in the first times, I also wrote literature pieces about the poor. I was also poor in a way, but not that very poor, and so somehow in Hungary it was it was a very important topic, how to give voice to the poor, and so I felt that the whole literature is about it. It wasn't, but for me that's what I felt. So in a way, these two things were important for me, to these topics, which became very important for me at the university, and then the idea that I want to put this into my literature writing.
And from this perspective, are you satisfied with your input in the university novel genre in Hungarian literature?
Yeah, I don't know. It's since then, I think a lot of things changed. So when I started to think about this novel, I don't know, 10 years ago, and then it took me a few years to really start writing, and then a few years passed. So now it's different, because the whole literature changed in Hungary. Now what people like to read and what topics are there. So my novel is still strange in a way in the Hungarian literary field, but not because of the topic, but it was more strange because it doesn't have an ordinary novel structure.
Regarding this, I would like to ask you questions about the structure. Some of the stories in the novel begin, but do not end in the classical sense. They remain with an open end. This also applies to the novel as a whole, I should say. Why did you decide on such an open structure of the work in which many things remain open, I should say not completely rounded off?
Yes. It's a long story, again, and I try to sum it up. So it's I like a story, like literature, which is not rounded. Because sometimes I feel, or at least, of course, I like many novels which are rounded and have a beginning and an end. So it's okay. But for me, I felt that that I want to, if I write a full story, the story will take away the show. And for me, it's not that I wanted to talk about something. I don't believe that a writer can really that a writer can really talk about what he or she wants to talk about. I mean, ideas. You start to talk about something which you think it's important, and then you find yourself talking about something else which is also important for you, but at the beginning you didn't thought about it. So for me, in everyday life as well, I feel I see more. I feel that those moments, I just see something at the park, maybe an old guy doing touching the grass, or just a moment. And for me, these moments have a lot of these moments are very poetic. But I see this. I feel the same with literature, that because in real life we don't have stories which have a beginning and an end.
Yes, I agree completely with you. Regarding magnetic field, this book is often praised as a book of Hungarian Me Too movement. What is your position regarding this statement?
I didn't think about when I was writing the book. I think it's the Me Too time. It was in 2016, around 2016. So I was already writing the novel. I was very happy that some critic first said that it's a Me Too book, and I just realized that, oh, really? I never thought about it, though I was writing these Me Too stories. But it's the same with when you, as a woman, or maybe a man as well, but when you had a Me Too story, most of the people haven't thought about it as a Me Too story before. It just happened, and many people felt as a natural story, which happens with a lot of people and guys, and some people tend to step through the lines, and that's how life is. Whatever, you have to get over it, so I think that it's a Me Too book, but the funny way that I wasn't think about it when I was writing it.
Yes. Critics often say that Magnetic Hills is a novel about marginality, social and intellectual, about feminism, women's writing and sexuality. Once you have said that literature is, or at least it can be, a form of emancipation, do you believe that with your books you can influence on the public opinion in relation to the topics they deal with? What is the influence of literature and the topics it deals with in today's Hungarian society?
I don't think that a book alone can have too much influence. And also literature now in Hungary, it doesn't have any influence. It's a small crowd writes and reads literature, so not too many people are interested in the topic. And even those who read books, they tend to I think that I see that successful novels tend to be a bit more shallow than it was before. Maybe that's my speculation, or maybe my elitism, I don't know, which says this book alone won't influence anything, but somehow it connects to other books, and I know that some guys in a sociology workshop read the book and talked about the book, and maybe somewhere else. So, and I meet mothers at the playgrounds who says that, look, I read your book and it really gave a lot to me. So yeah, these are small things, but sometimes small things can make an impact, and not that at the end they will know that the impact was made of this book and but somehow, this. So I think that it can make a change, but not this book alone.
Yes, I agree with you that the change is made by the whole context and changing of the context. Your answer, it's a good starting point for my next question. In the novel, implicitly, and in your interviews explicitly, you raised the question about the socio-cultural structures of power, which have a huge impact on the creation of a more just society. How can we think and act today in order to create a more just society?
Do you think that I know the answer?
I hope.
Well, I think that sometimes you can do two things, and the situation in Hungary, that now we have a not 100% democratic government. So I think in this case you have two options. One is to go to the street, protest, and if you see something which you don't like, say that you don't like. And it's a hard task, because when there is no real change, then what can you do? Go again and again? There are people who do that, and I really appreciate that they don't that they have the time, or they don't have the time, but they somehow make it But the other thing which everybody can do is that what you choose, how you behave in everyday circumstances. If you behave in justly, then you just put the little impacts on your surroundings to make it more justly. I know it's very small versus a country or a government or a society and all these big words, but yeah, I think that that's what that is the decision we can make alone. And find in what ways can I act more justly or just. I don't know that if I can say justly, but I mean not just with other people, but also with, I don't know, with our planet and with animals and with ourselves. So there are a lot of dimensions of this question, I think.
Yes, I agree with you. Reka Mан-Вархеѓи, thank you for being part of this interview today. It was really nice to talk about your great book, Magnetic Hill, and for the readers in Macedonia, but not only in Macedonia, I can just recommend this great novel.
Thank you very much.